What's up, guys and gals? It is March 13th, and I am here because last year they did the International Car Show, and I thought it was the coolest thing since sliced bread. But I didn't have a vehicle to enter at the time. I had an old truck that I had bought that I had done a few things to, but I didn't think it was worthy, and I didn't take the time to upload it, which I kind of regret that I didn't, because I know I probably wouldn't have won anything, but it would have been fun just to do. So I've actually got a truck that I like, that I'm going to put up, that still I'm sure it's not going to win, but I like it. I wanted to share it with y'all because it's my work truck, and I've learned a lot about it from watching the guys that are judging this show, and then of course other people on YouTube as well, and then just figuring out as I go. So I guess without further ado, let me just show you my truck. All right, so this is my 1984 Ford F350 crew cab long bed single rear wheel. So this popped up on the Facebook marketplace last year. I had a extended cab 91 with a short bed, and I liked it. It was four-wheel drive. As you can see, this one is just two-wheel drive, but I wanted something with more space to haul more tools and whatnot, and obviously with the long bed I can do that. And I've got my ladder rack on it. This I had on my previous truck, and it's been great to me, but I'll show you later. It's got some defects itself. I am in the process, and I want to learn to weld so I can repair this, because I know, I could go and I could buy a new one, but why would I do that? It wouldn't match the truck. I want the stuff I do on this thing to match it. So like I said, last year I found this. It popped up on Marketplace. As you can see, it's an old truck. There's nothing, it's not going to win any Purdy awards, but it ran. It hadn't been running in a while. They'd actually, basically what this truck was used for, it was a one-owner truck. They bought it back in the day because they had a roofing business, and they bought it to run the roofing business out of. And the business had continued and they're still doing it now. It's been just passed down in the family. And what happened was they actually made so much money in 2019 that they wanted to basically do something to avoid having to pay a lot of taxes. So what they did was they bought a 2016 V10 or some gas Ford crew cab long bed, which they say actually gets worse miles per gallon than this, which I'm not surprised, but it probably has 3 times the horsepower, because as y'all see in a minute, this was not the most powerful power plant that Ford made, just one of the most reliable. So without further ado, let's get to that. I'll let you know what we have on the inside of this. It is a manual. It's a 4-speed with the granny gear low. It's got 410 gears in it, so it screams 3,500 at 72.5 miles per hour, but it'll do that all day without complaints. And under the hood, it's got the 300 straight 6 in it, and it came with a carburetor that had an electric choke on it, and I have since put a new carburetor on it so it would run a little better, and I put a manual choke on it because I didn't want to have to worry about if the choke was fully closed or not, and it runs great like that. Another upgrade I did is I took out the old distributor and I put in a HEI distributor, and I know some people have feelings about them that are not the best, and some other people love them. I have so far have loved it. It's been great. I've had no trouble. It was super easy for me to hook up. I've done several distributor jobs before, but this was the first like swap to a different one. I've replaced but not put in a different style, and this was great. And I've even got the tack working in the cab. Let's see. So the only other thing I've done is when I got this truck, actually only the front tank was working. They actually had the back tank plugged off. Like there was caulk, you can see on here where they actually had this caulked shut, so I couldn't enter that. And so I just went and ripped that off because I'm like, I'm gonna get this thing to work. And what I did was I filled it up with a few gallons of gas because they said there was a leak, and so I filled it with a few gallons of gas to see if it leaked out. Nothing leaked out. So I was like, okay, so what's the issue here? So let me take you under the truck real quick. The issue was, you see this thing? This is the fuel selector valve. There wasn't one. There was this line here, which is to the front tank, and it was just it was connected to this line. There was nothing here at all. And this line goes to the rear tank, and it was just hanging. It wasn't connected to anything. So basically, what I'm guessing is that the fuel selector valve went bad, and they just were like, well, we can just run it on one tank, because they didn't travel much for their roofing jobs. They, I think, stayed mostly around Asheville, North Carolina. So they were able to get by with just having one tank. But I bought this online. I couldn't figure out how to get it to work, but then I finally found that this wire was still on the truck, and I was like, I realized that that was the one that went to the old one, and so I plugged it up on here and I grounded it to the frame, as you can see, and it started working immediately, no problems. And I've been able to use that trouble-free for almost the whole year now. So that's been great. And you can see there's another line here, and I'll show you what I did with that. So some of you might know, if you've got an old carbureted vehicle, sometimes you can have issues with vapor locking. And basically what was happening is, or what will happen, is the gas will come through the lines and go into the carburetor, and it's a mechanical fuel pump, as you can see. And it just basically, it keeps pumping even if the carburetor doesn't need more fuel. So what happens is the gas will get hot in the lines and will even boil, and it'll overpressurize, and then when you turn the engine off, it'll either flood over into the carb, or it'll just keep boiling and you'll have a hard start while it's hot. And so what I did is I added in this fuel filter, which is like $6. I looked it up on Uncle Tony's Garage, and he said he's done this to multiple vehicles, and it's got a return built in. So there's an orifice here that is bigger, and that's the one that goes to the carb, and this one's smaller. It runs a 1/4 inch line, where the rest of this line is a 5/16. And so the 5/16 goes to the carb, the 1/4 inch goes to the back. But I was having trouble because it was still having some vapor locking and issues with hot starts. So what I did was I actually went and I got a fuel shutoff valve. This is actually just for a lawnmower, but it's 1/4 inch, so it fits in these lines fine. And I just shut it so it would have a restriction there, so it wouldn't allow so much fuel to be returned, and that solved the problem. So it runs great. It starts cold well, it hot starts fine, and I don't have to worry about not being able to start it when it's hot. The biggest reason I did it too, well, not the reason, but one of the things I did is the front tank, the fuel level doesn't work so great. Basically, it'll say it's full when it's full, but it'll be empty at 3/4 of a tank. So what I did was I made the return go to the filler neck of the rear tank. So basically, I'll run on the rear tank first till it's empty, then I'll run on the front and it'll actually fill the rear within about 60-70 miles, and then I'll switch back to the rear and run on it and have a gauge that works. So it works out pretty good for me, and I enjoy that. As you can see, I've got room for my toolbox in here. Sorry, it's a work truck. Like I said, I use it. I've got tools, I've got ladders, I've got stands, I've got a pressure washer in here. Like, I can fit whatever I need to in here. And one of the interesting things is when I bought it, it actually didn't have the back seat. So you can see I've got more space for tools in here. And so if I ever wanted to, you know, I could have people sit back in here. It wouldn't be comfortable, but right now my tools don't complain at all, and I can fit more of them in here, no problem whatsoever. So, sorry, some stuff fell out. So, as I'm sure you're all wondering, how does it run? I've said it runs good multiple times, but let me show you how easy it starts up. It is hot because I've been driving, but let me show you. So just clutch in, turn it over. There it is. And I'm really sad that Zip Ties is no longer a judge for this show, but I put it straight to the ketchup just for him. That was for him. See, runs just as good as anything. I love this truck. One of the other upgrades I've done is I've put a head unit in it. I know some people hate this because, as you can see, I had to cut it out and it's got gaps. I know you can get other ones that help remedy that, but you know, this is my work truck. It's a show truck for this purpose, but it's not a pretty show truck, and it works. I've got Bluetooth, so I can listen to whatever I want. I've also done an upgrade where I've put an inverter in here so I can charge both my phone, because the cigarette lighter doesn't work. I've been meaning to fix that, and I can do that. It's on down the list of things to do. So I can use this to charge my phone. I also charge my batteries for my tools using this inverter, and it works just great. And then of course I've put a cup holder in here because these old trucks, for some reason, they didn't have 20 cup holders like newer trucks do. It's just a shame. But I think that about wraps it up. I might have to do something with me driving so y'all can see it rolling around, but it's not anything crazy. I've put mud tires on the back because I'm in people's yards a decent amount, and these things help grabbing a lot more. One of the projects I plan on doing to it is, right now it's currently got open diff. As far as I can tell, it's a Dana 70 rear end because it's got the 3.5 inch axle tubes, and the Dana 60s are 3 3/8 inch. And so pretty sure it's a Dana 70 with 410 gears, but it's open diff, and I want to put a locker in there so I can have better traction, because like I said, it's just 2-wheel drive. So the better traction I can get for off-road, the better. And so this is me signing off. This is my, again, 1984 Ford F350 crew cab long bed single rear wheel, and it's my baby of a work truck. Thanks. So, as I'm sure y'all can imagine, I forgot some things. One thing I wanted to show y'all is, as you can see, it's not the prettiest truck, and I thought about painting it and whatnot after I got it. But there's been a few things that have kept me from doing that. One in particular, like I mentioned, this was a roofing truck for a roofing company, and I like that it has some history to it. And basically they would actually write on the truck different dimensions for jobs, and it's all there. It's still visible. Like, they have it written with people's names and like the jobs and whatnot. So I think that just adds to the history of the truck, and so I've decided I'm just going to keep it like that. I might clean it up here and there, but I don't think I'm going to be doing much painting to it. I also forgot to show y'all where my ladder rack was broken. So basically the welds here are cracked, so I've reinforced it with these angle iron, It's on both sides, it's cracked right up in there. So it'll hold a load still. I don't put too much up there right now, not until I get to where I've repaired it, especially because they're cracked right there too. Focus. Yeah, and it's the same on the other side. So I tend not to put too much heavy up there because I worry about that. One of the other modifications I've thought about doing is it's got two 19-gallon tanks, front and rear. On my other truck, I actually ended up putting a 38-gallon in the back, and it was great. I'd like to do that eventually to this, but I've got one problem. There's a hitch welded to the frame below the tank, and it's only an inch below it, and when you put a 38-gallon, it basically adds 3 inches of depth. So basically I'd have to take that off and figure out another way to put a hitch on, or just be happy with the ball hitch on the bumper, which isn't out of the question because I don't really tow a lot. I mostly just haul a lot. So we'll see how that goes. One of the other things I forgot to mention was when I got this truck, these were not here. There were just screws sticking up out of the door pin, and as y'all can imagine, my wife doesn't really like this truck much to begin with, but she hated it even more when she would get in and the screws would scratch her hands and arms. So I went and I just took a 2x4, cut it down, cut out a hole here for my handle, and screwed it to the thing, and it's just fine. I did it on the other side too, because that's of course where she would ride and it would bother her. So the other thing I did was, this had an old seat in it, and you can see it's got another old seat in it, but this one is from earlier, or a newer truck, and by newer I mean 87 to 91 Ford, because it's got the armrest that folds down the middle, and the other one I replaced because it just basically had a piece of plywood and egg crate foam on top of it. It was uncomfortable as all get out. So I put this in here and it's been great. It also adjusts better. When I pull the lever to slide it, the whole thing slides, whereas the other one, only one side would slide, the other side was locked up. So that took care of that. I think that's it. I've put this wheel or window foam in that is just used really for housing mostly, but it works for wind noise down the highway, and I can roll it up and down. It's coming apart here a little bit. That just happened the other day, so I have to replace it every now and then, but it's much easier to find this than it is to find the trim for this window. And again, I feel like it fits the character of the truck having that rather than have something really shiny and new. But yeah, I think now that is actually it for my truck. Thank y'all for watching, and I'm looking forward to seeing some of y'all's uploads too.